so I can't say the show has gripped me quite like I wanted it to. There is one thing that works for me, and it's that opening theme. I will never be skipping that. What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Peacemaker Season 1, Episode 1, A Whole New World. So I was excited to get into this because I heard really good things about the show. I will admit, from this first episode, I'm not fully into it yet, partially I think because a lot of this episode is building these characters up, and unfortunately what they've given these characters so far is just not that interesting. A lot of it, unfortunately, is just stereotypes that we've seen before. And most of the time, whenever you have characters that are just based on stereotypes, there's not a whole lot of depth to them. So I'm hoping we do get maybe a little bit more about why these characters are this way. But as it is, looking at everybody, Adebayo is basically the stereotypical new person that's kind of nervous to be on the team. Economos, or Economos, I don't remember how to pronounce his name. But so far, he's only shown himself to be kind of the goofy guy that eats a lot. Harcourt is the tough female character that's beautiful, so she attracts a lot of men, but she also hates men. Myrn is the no-nonsense, hard-ass leader that's in charge of these goofy characters. And then Peacemaker's dad is what Hollywood thinks the stereotype of all white conservative older men is. Which then, of course, leads us to Peacemaker, who is the product of that, where he means well, he thinks he's a good person, but a lot of what he says and thinks is actually awful. In fact, I would not be surprised because he had the talk with Adebayo in this one, and she mentioned that she was married. And he's like, oh yeah, I like traditional stuff too. I would not be surprised at all if when he finds out she's in a lesbian marriage, all of a sudden he's like, oh, I can't believe that. Because that's just what it feels like this show is setting up for. And that's where I feel like I'm a little disconnected with this show right now. Because the story itself, I am slightly intrigued on how it ended in this episode. We come to find out Adebayo is actually Waller's daughter. And there seems to be some plan that they're discussing that the rest of the team is not privy to. And then on top of that, obviously what happened with Peacemaker, sleeps with this one woman, and all of a sudden she goes crazy and tries to kill him. So like there's intrigue there, but most of this episode was just focused on introducing us to these characters, getting to know them, and what we know about them so far is just surface level stuff. We don't know how they became these people. There's not much outside of that one stereotype about them. I guess Adebayo has a few things now, knowing that she's Waller's daughter, knowing that she's the only one privy to whatever Waller's setting up with his team. But yeah, everybody else is just kind of bare bones boring right now. And that's unfortunately what this whole episode was getting to know them. So if we were going to spend all this time getting to know them, I would prefer that we know a little bit more about them than what was given in this episode. So that's my biggest complaint for this one. I will say a lot of the humor doesn't feel like it's humor meant for me. There are some jokes that I know would get a laugh out of some people. I don't find it personally that funny. And they also do introduce Adrian Chase in this episode, who is going to be Vigilante, I'm pretty sure. And I only know that because I watched Arrow, and I know Adrian Chase from that one as well. It's going to be very interesting to see this completely different version of him, because in the show he was a lot more serious, and in this one he seems to be just this goofy kid who's obsessed with Peacemaker and wants to be friends with him. So I don't know. I'll be interested to see what this take on him is going to be, but that was just something else that stood out to me. But as far as the good stuff in this episode, I will say, the acting so far has been very good. John Cena does feel like a perfect fit. A lot of Peacemaker's lines are written as if he says them with best intentions, but they come off sounding absolutely horrible and very offensive in a lot of ways. But the way John Cena delivers it, it almost reminds me of Michael Scott in a way. Because you think about a lot of what he said in that show. He said it with the best of intentions. He said it thinking he was being nice, but in reality, he's saying something that's really awful. And that's kind of the same thing that John Cena has done here. He's done a very good job of showing that Peacemaker himself is not a terrible person. He's just very simple-minded. I think that works here because one thing I mentioned in my review for The Suicide Squad is I wasn't sure how Peacemaker was going to be the star of a show whenever he does something so awful like kill Rick Flag. But I think seeing this side of him, having that personality of a simpleton who is just trying to do the best he can, you kind of see where he comes from as well. You do start to feel a little bit bad for him. And Adebayo even mentions that at the end of this episode, which did feel a little bit on the nose, almost like the writing team said, we need to have the audience feel how we want them to feel, so let's have a character say how they should feel about him, which I felt was kind of unnecessary because I already felt that way about him before they had that line in there. But I think that's good because if we're going to be following him, we don't want to follow a complete douchebag. But if you see a lot of what he's doing and a lot of what he says is not intended to be douchey sounding, just unfortunately he doesn't understand that, I do think that allows you to sympathize for him a little bit more. And also it does leave that room for change once he does learn a lot of what he's saying, if he ever does. Once he learns a lot of what he's saying isn't the correct thing to say, there's that hope that he can change. Like even when he's talking in the bar to Harcourt, and basically he's saying, look, I'm not trying to start a relationship with you or anything. I just want sex. Like, it sounds awful, but in his mind, he thinks it's okay because, like he said, he's not looking for a relationship. He's not been able to have any fun for so long, and so why shouldn't he ask? Why shouldn't he try to go have some fun? And then he ends up having fun later anyway. But with that being said, I do hope he does start to learn a little bit, and he does start to change a little bit, because if he's like this all the way through the season, I feel like that's where it'll be a bit more difficult to sympathize with him. Because even with Michael Scott, you could see once he realized something was bad, he would try not to do it, or he'd go so far in the other direction that it became offensive in the other way. With Peacemaker so far, he hears something is bad, but he justifies it to himself, like the whole sweet cheeks comment. But moving on to the other thing that I thought was really good in this episode, I thought the music really worked. The title sequence as well was really funny to watch. And I think the action scene at the end, it really worked. It looked good. It was exciting. It was brutal at times too. And it also had some funny moments. So all in all, I would say this first episode, while it didn't quite grip me, it didn't get me invested yet, there are elements of it that do work, that do have me interested in seeing what's going to happen next. I just hope for these characters, because they do feel so shallow, I hope that we get to learn a little bit more about them, and I hope they grow as the season goes on. Because if not, then I will say it probably will not interest me as much. But I think that'll do it for this first episode, so on to the next one. I'll see you there. And now episode 2, Best Friends for Never. So this was a little bit better. I think the comedy in this one did get funnier to me. But a lot of it is just focused around the idea that some of these people are idiots. Like the whole thing with Economos framing Peacemaker's dad doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Why would you want to frame somebody close to him? And especially seeing that apparently him going to prison may be a bad thing for that prison since he has a bunch of followers in there. He used to be the White Dragon. So it feels like that decision is really dumb. The fact that Peacemaker just left this dossier on the bed for somebody to read about this mission that he's undertaking. Even the fact that Adebayo brought her wife on this mission, I thought they were at their own place. I didn't actually realize that this was a hotel room that they were staying at for this mission. I thought this is just where she lived. So the fact that, yeah, she brought her wife on this mission, it does feel kind of silly on her part. And they brought all 3 of their dogs too. Like, it doesn't seem like a smart idea if you're going to be on assignment this whole time. You're going to want to be focused on what you're doing. And so having that distraction there, it's not going to help. So unfortunately, because that's where a lot of the comedy comes from, it does feel all kind of the same. And so there are parts that are funny, but then there are parts where you just kind of go, really? Like, you thought that was a good idea? But where I think it's at its funniest is in the physical comedy aspect. For instance, watching Peacemaker try to get down from the top balcony, that was really funny. I just feel like the writing is where sometimes this show gets a little bit held back. I don't think it's quite getting the laughs that I was hoping it would be, considering how much this show has been praised and how many people liked it. I thought it would be a lot funnier than it is, but I'm just not getting into the written comedy as much as I hoped I would be. So maybe that'll change. Maybe it'll get better as the show goes along. But for now, it's more so the physical comedy that I think is really hitting for me. As far as the story is concerned, we learn at least what the mission is called. We still don't know anything about these butterflies that apparently they're going to be trying to go after. I don't know if they're supposed to be aliens. It seems like it, because the one little thing that he stole from her apartment that he opened up and it turned into a little spaceship. It feels very alien. They're going after a senator. Is he supposed to be one of these butterflies as well? And maybe that's why the butterfly attacked Peacemaker. But yeah, it still hasn't really gotten going as far as the story is concerned. It still felt like we were biding our time through a lot of this, having the team react to what happened at the end of last episode, and then Peacemaker talking with Vigilante, showing the friendship that they have. Apparently he didn't know Vigilante is the guy in the restaurant, because he doesn't actually know Vigilante's secret identity, which is kind of funny in the fact that this guy is so clearly infatuated with him the same way Vigilante is, so you would think you would make that connection. But some of their conversation was kind of funny, hearing him talk about how he enjoys killing people. That was probably one of the funniest lines in this episode, but not much really progresses with the two of them. They essentially just have a little gun show at the end of the episode to get some of the frustrations out, and then end up sleeping with the one guy's girlfriend or wife, or I don't know how they're related. But I think that about does it for this episode. The music, once again, very good. The acting still feels very genuine, even if what they're saying does feel very unrealistic. These still do feel like real people in these scenarios. So some good, some bad. Still waiting for it to grip me and get me truly invested. But with all that being said, those are my thoughts. So cue the outro. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that review. I hope you enjoyed it. First and foremost, please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. I love having discussions with people, so whatever your thoughts were, whether you agree or disagree with me, please leave them down below. Obviously, no spoilers. Also, if you did find yourself enjoying this review and you want to see more, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I also have a gaming channel as well as a channel where I talk about soccer, so if you want to give those a follow as well, that would be much appreciated. And lastly, if you want to help me improve upon the quality of these channels, I do have a Patreon. All of this is in the description below. With all that being said, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace out.